If you were to ask me what Monster Hunter was about 2 years ago, I would have shot you a puzzled look. But now, after putting over 400 hours into World across console and PC, I can tell you that Monster Hunter has slowly become one of my favorite game series. And with the new expansion Iceborne, Monster Hunter World has become my favorite game of all time. Iceborne is an expansion first and foremost. Without the base game's excellent starting point, there would be nothing to build upon. That being said, for being an expansion, it's basically a whole new game in terms of content. There's multiple new monsters, some returning ones, and a few variants from monsters of the original game. To be clear, the variants aren't just reskins. They have a whole new moveset which really sets them apart. Along with all the new monsters, there's a whole new area called the Hoarfrost Reach. It's a snowy wilderness glacier that is pretty jaw-dropping when you first start exploring it. You won't be spending all of your time in the new area, as there are some monsters that you have to hunt and a few of the older ones, but honestly I don't mind. It would get pretty dull pretty fast if it was just the Hoarfrost Reach. With the new area comes a new base of operations called Celiana. It's a much more streamlined version of Astria, with everything being closer together and easier to access. Plus we have a new grandma cat, who you just gotta love. But to be frank, the real star of the show is Celiana's new gathering hub. This place has everything that you need, along with a few nice ways to relax with your palico. I honestly so appreciated that you could visit the workshop from this gathering hub with no hassle. It's so appreciated. Speaking of the workshop, you'll be visiting it quite a bit as there's a metric ton of new weapons and armor to make, all of which look fantastic. You'll be wanting to make new gear quick though, as the starting point of Iceborne is really tough, especially if you're already not rocking the most meta gear. But that does go for the rest of the expansion as a whole. This expansion feels a decent bit harder than what came before it, and that's a good thing, considering the fact that besides the endgame, the base game for Monster Hunter World was relatively easy. But make no mistake about it, Iceborne is tough, and it will immediately let you know that it's not fucking around. While hunting monsters, you'll be able to use a new gadget to help you out called the Clutch Claw. There are 2 reasons to use the Clutch Claw. 1, you can use it to do an attack that creates a weak spot on the monster, or 2, you can use it to make the monster bump into the environment for a decent amount of damage. Be careful though, you do it too much and you'll just piss off the monster. Personally, I used it a lot when I got it, but now I've been using it more slowly, only really using it to set up big attacks. So this already sounds like a lot of new stuff. What else is there? Well, we have the new endgame activity of exploring the Guiding Lands, which is a little too complicated for me to explain fully, but basically involves killing monsters in certain areas to level up that area so that way you can get specific loot from rarer monsters. Some of the rarer monsters in the Guiding Lands are your pathway to making some amazing gear that is honestly overpowered at times. So you'll be spending a decent amount of time in the Guiding Lands. Besides that, there's a decent amount of quality of life changes that are appreciated. There's a new system that lets you ride smaller monsters around the map. Oh, and the new storyline that explains Iceborne. Honestly, I really didn't bring this up because there's not much to say. To give it credit, there's actually more story to it rather than it just being a series of excuses to hunt a specific monster. So with Iceborne, Monster Hunter World has easily become one of my favorite games of all time. It's easy to say that Iceborne was just the cherry on top of what already was an excellent game, but that's not giving it enough credit. It somehow made something that was already amazing exponentially more amazing. I can't recommend it enough. If you haven't played Monster Hunter before, now is the time to get on board, as this is the perfect game to play. I give Monster Hunter World Iceborne a 10 out of 10 with no complaints.